Jimmy Carter had given a speech to the American people in which he talked about a certain lack of energy in Americans, and the speech ended up being branded by the Republican Party. Does anyone know this as the what speech? It was an almost disastrous speech by Carter, but it was characterized in a way that made it even more disastrous.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but malaise?
Malaise, yes, all right, yes, that's right. What is malaise?
I don't know what malaise means, but I know the speech was about, he was talking about how a lot of Americans had lost the American spirit and how we needed to get it back.
Yeah, he was almost blaming the American people. Not quite, I think, if you read the speech, but almost. Malaise is similar to torpor, only it's a kind of infection. It's a kind of disease. It's a kind of but Jimmy Carter never used that word in the speech, interestingly enough. Never used it. You go back and look at the speech and listen to recordings of it, the word malaise is not in there. But it was called that. And so that label stuck. And now Reagan is playing upon it. And the next page, this would be 342, right near the bottom. Thanks to the economic policies of the Democratic Party, millions of Americans find themselves out of work. Millions more have never even had a fair chance to learn new skills, hold a decent job, or secure for themselves and their families a share in the prosperity of this nation. This is placing blame on an entire party and on a president for economic difficulties. Is that fair? You're going to have to judge historically. Was it effective politically? Indeed, it was effective politically. So Reagan essentially talks about renewing the American compact and says, this is a couple pages later, some say that spirit no longer exists, but I've seen it. I've felt it all across the land, in the big cities, the small towns, and in rural America. It's still there, ready to blaze into life if you and I are willing to do what has to be done. There was something else at this very time which hung like a cloud over the entire nation for well more than a year. It's an important event in American history. And there was a TV show about it every single night. It was the beginning of Nightline, a show by Ted Koppel, which ran for many, many years. This was a wrenching event for Americans. Joel? Yes, the hostage crisis in Iran, where American diplomats were taken hostage. And they were held for, I think, 400 and some days. And there was a rescue mission, a military rescue mission, that was launched to save them, which ended disastrously. When helicopters collided, lives were lost, and it failed. So the country was in a dispirited condition. The media, quite understandably, would not let go of the Iranian hostage crisis. Inflation was high. There had been a crimp put on oil supply. Oil prices were high. Energy prices were high. Inflation was high. There were hostages in Iran. It was a very difficult situation. Reagan won the election. It is using circumstances to present oneself as an alternative. Reagan did this really very successfully. He also seemed to have the personal temperament and character able to do it. If you look at the end of his speech, he talks about, right near the end, a divine providence placed this land as a refuge for all those people in the world who yearn to breathe free. There's proportionality. If you're talking about the fate of a nation, can you invoke divine providence? It's risky. Lincoln invoked it. George Washington invoked it. They both did, interestingly enough. They invoked it. Not out of a particular religious belief, doctrine, or dogma, but out of a sense that there was some guiding hand which was spiritual, religious, and divine. Reagan uses it. Well, of course, the Democratic Party could not let this stand, but Reagan was elected, got elected, rode out a recession, a rather bad recession, passed tax cuts, and then the economy started to take off again.